Friday evening. We know what he's up to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So salary cap. I wanted to hit a couple of different things here. What I wanted to do is look at 2026, and we've kind of had a conversation about this a little bit in terms of cap space. What is the actual cap space? This and that. According to Spot Track, all right, I did a little bit of research here. It is showing in 2026. This is next year, guys. $29.9 million in cap space. Now, keep in mind that does not include the draft. Does not include the draft class. Okay, so the draft class, a good estimation is somewhere between 12 to 15 million. So let's call it 13 million, same as this year. And obviously, that's going to lower it down to a $16 million in cap space. Now, it is showing on Spot Track the rollover cap from 2025 only being 2.3 million. All right. I have a hard time believing that that is accurate because the cap space we have right now is 35 million. Now, the reason I wanted to bring that up, matter of fact, let's start with that. I want to show you guys what we were talking about with Jair Alexander here and that cap hit of $17 million. Rather than spreading that out over 2 years, they chose it. You can see here the cap space this year right now as it sits is $35.9 million what the Packers have. That's seventh most in the league. Okay. So when you go all the way to the bottom, we're going to see the dead cap hits. Jair Alexander's dead cap hit is $17 million. You still got Preston Smith's 9.8. People were going, hold up, how do you got 9.8 for Preston Smith? That's what we're talking about and doing the post-June 1. They decided to kick that 9 point. Rather than absorb the entire dead cap penalty last year, they kicked half of it to the next year. So they kind of split it there. And it's not 50-50 split, but you get the gist. Devondre Campbell this year, dead cap penalty, $7.9 million. Again, this is in 2025. Okay. So anyway, after you tally everything up, plus the $15.1 million in rollover cap from 2024, everything came into effect. Here you got the dead money of $35.3 million in dead cap money. You still finished with $35.9 million in cap space. So I say that because that I'm almost positive that full 35.9, if we don't spend any more money this year, that will roll into next year in addition to that 16 million. Now keep in mind that with that next year, what you're going to have to deal with is also filling out the roster. And that's where we're going to shift gears into the 2026 cap, what we call the salary cap table here. Okay. And well, I'm going to look at the multi-year cap table because it shows us a little bit more. I thought
that was even cool looking at those numbers, Clay. Just like we had a really high rollover ranking, then like we had a high dead money ranking, but then we also got it back down for next year's rank. Like we're like high in some of the bad ones, but then we're also green. And I mean, they're very well moving that money around.
No doubt about it, man. So if we pull up, let's just go position by position here because you got to fill out the roster too, right? We got to keep that in mind. And keep in mind there's going to be futures contracts too that do fill out the roster, but you don't want those guys taking up a 53-man spot. You want to try to improve the roster as much as you can. Let's start at the quarterback position, okay? So focus on 2026, guys, this second column here, okay? Right here, if you can see my cursor, okay? So in 2026, Jordan Love and Taylor Elgersma are the only ones under contract in the quarterback position. Malik Willis is set to be an undrafted free agent. Now, Sean Clifford will be exclusive rights free agent. You might as well put him on the roster. If they want him back, he will be back. So as it sits right now, without Malik Willis having a contract through the 2026 season, your quarterback room will be Jordan Love, Taylor Elgersma, and Sean Clifford. My question, and we'll go through each position here real quick, rapid fire, because I just want to kind of get an overview of how we're looking at this, and I want to get your all's opinion on it. How much money would you be willing to pay Malik Willis? What's your top dollar to have him back as the backup quarterback next year? And you got to keep in mind, he's going to want a 2 to 3 year deal as well, I'm sure, like as much security as he could possibly get. Let's say that he goes and hits the market and it's not inflated. No one sees him as a starting quarterback. He's going to get backup money. What's your top dollar that you would pay Malik Willis an average annual value, i.e. average salary cap hit?
As just a backup?
Just a backup. That's right.
Man, $3.5 million.
You go 3.5,
something like that.
What about you, Emilio?
If we're keeping him as a backup, we could probably pay him 9 to 12, maybe. If you're really like thinking, hey, we want to keep him around because he is our safety net, something that I don't think that's going to happen just because he's going to go off and get money in the off season, give us a comp pick. But if we're really trying to bend the rules and we really like Malik and we want to keep him as a backup for a couple years, I ideally wouldn't want to go into the double digits, but I'd be pretty much fine with paying him anything underneath that.
And one of the things I wanted to look at here too, and we're already getting kind of off topic, I wanted to look at positional cap rankings for quarterbacks, right? And see across the league when you look at
Colts signed Daniel Jones for what, like 12 or 14 million, something like that. And I mean, they had Anthony Richardson, so it's like
14.5 million is what the Colts have as an average. Actually, that's the cap hit it's showing for this year. That's saying 2030. What the heck's going on here? Let's go 2026 if it'll adjust. I don't know if it will or not. This is the first time I've tried to do this at positions, so you could probably just go team by team and look at it. But yeah, when you look at player 1, player 2 on Indianapolis Colts, it's showing 14.5 million cap for 2026 if it did adjust. Now, for the rest of the league, let's just go through here real quick, okay? If this did update, Dallas, Dak Prescott's making 50.5 million. Will Greer's only making $1 million, right? So let's sort it by player 2 might be the best way of doing it. Of course, it's not going to sort it by actual value. Never mind.
That's fair. Respect Orange says here, Jacoby Brissett's getting 12 million. Malik's got to be worth 14 to 15. See, 12 was kind of the max there, but I ideally wouldn't want to go into the double digits. But you bring that up, Jacoby Brissett.
Brought up Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, bro.
Changed the whole game.
Jeez, I mean, we might be pushing 20 then.
See, I don't know. To
put
me,
that name in my mouth right there.
What's a team willing to pay, right? What are they willing to pay Malik Willis? We were the only team in the NFL willing to give up a 7th-round pick. So the only thing that's changed since we made that trade is he went out and played 2 really good games, right? That's what it comes down to. I hope we don't see him at all this year because, and I hate to say this because Malik's a great guy, that would tank his value as much as possible, and we potentially keep him, right?
But you're going to see him in the preseason.
That game tape, kind of on the low too, right?
Yeah, right.
A lot on tape last year.
Let's get that locked up.
And you're going to see him a lot in the preseason this year, I would think. You know what I mean? Like he's going to get those reps. So you put on a show in preseason.
Yeah. H.E. Solder, another one, boy. I need you guys to stop doing this, Solder. This is making me depressed. Mason Rudolph getting $8 million to have his brains bashed in by Myles Garrett with his own helmet, right? Like $8 million.
These names and numbers, and I'm like, dude, we're not keeping Malik. There's just no way.
It's not looking good, is it, Tim? So here's the question. It's not really a question, but just a comment as we move on to running back. Do you just roll forward with Sean Clifford or Taylor Elgersman? I like Taylor Elgersman. So, I mean, you're going to have to learn the offense. He's got a lot to prove. Matt LaFleur loves him. He's talking about he's had a real live arm. We know he's got the mobility. The numbers he put up, granted it was in Canada, were phenomenal, right? So he won the MVP of that league that he was in, whatever league it was. So maybe he rises to the occasion there, right? Maybe you spend a draft pick, a mid-round draft pick next year, and you bring a rookie in and pray to sweet baby Jesus he doesn't see the field as well. So I hope we can get Malik Willis back. To answer my own question, $5 million would be my number. I'd be willing to pay him $5 million and not a cent more.
Yeah.
Because, if your starting quarterback goes down, the chances you win the Super Bowl anyway are slim to none. No matter how good Malik Willis played, it's just how often has that happened in the history of the NFL? Let's run back. Kurt Warner did it, right? Mm-hmm. He did it. Name another team that won the Super Bowl with their backup quarterback starting.
Philly, Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. So there's 2, right? And that was both of those were, well, that one was the most recent one, right? Nick Foles.
Yeah.
And that would have been
the most recent one was last year, but prior to that, yeah.
What would that have been, Tim? Like 2014 or something?
Something like that, yeah. 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Help us out, chat. That was the old. I remember they tried to run the same play. Brady tried to run the same play that Philly lit him up with the old Philly special. and old Tommy Boy couldn't catch the pass like Nick Foles caught it.
That's
but
right.
That was a hell of a Super Bowl, though, and a hell of a run for them to lose their starter there going into the playoffs, and then for their backup to get it done all the way. It's pretty cool.
Coach Lamb mentions a great point here. He says, we got the money to pay Willis. Again, if my numbers are correct, after accounting for $13 million toward the draft class, and let's say we don't sign another soul and we roll $35 million into next year, we don't have to use any of that money. We're going to have to. They like to operate with an extra $7 to $12 million every year, just a little cushion, right? But if you go in, let's say you go in with $40 million next year, you can afford to pay him $8 million, right? You can afford to do that and keep Malik Willis. He said, we got the money to pay Willis. The question is, does Willis want to compete for a starting role? I could see Malik Willis being one of those guys that says, I'll take less money to have an opportunity to compete for a starting job. I think it's a great point, Coach, because he does seem like one of those dudes that money doesn't drive him. That's why I don't want to see him. It's just like Bo Melton. As human beings, gosh, they're unbelievable.
Yep.
H.E. Solder says $5 million seemed to be the viable number for a quality backup. Willis will get starter money. So, yeah, I could see it both ways. It depends on if he gets showcased this year or not. Sure. So, moving on to running back, because we are going to run out of time if we ain't careful. That was good conversation at quarterback, though, because it's again, why are we talking about this? It's June 13th, mandatory minicamp just ended. We got over a month before training camp. Packers total access. These are the things that Brian Gutekunst and his staff are talking about right now. They're modeling the roster for next year. What's the game plan? Guys, summer practice is going on with college teams. It's going to be going on here real soon. Fall camp's going to open up. Guess what's going to happen? All these scouts are going to get their marching orders, and they're going to disperse all over the country and start scouting the next draft class, right? They've already started, first of all, but they're going to go out there and start to build the board already. So while you're doing that, you've got to have a blueprint put together. I guarantee you backup quarterback is on that blueprint. It may not be at the top of the list, but they're going, hey, guys, we need to take a swing or two at quarterback, whether it's one in the draft, one undrafted. We need to kind of set ourselves up for the next backup quarterback in Green Bay in case Malik Willis does get significant offers. So
how much of a deal was it, though, before we get off? What was it that we got him for a 7th-round pick?
Oh, my gosh, dude.
And then it was Mike and Wes were talking. Then the Tennessee has to go out and spend a first overall first round pick on the quarterback just after, a year or two after they spent, what was it, a third? But still, it's like, how can you get a dog like that? And then, we didn't get anything for Ja, right? We had to straight up release him. What if we had gotten a 7th for him? Would have been terrible? No, it could have turned into Malik, could have turned into anything.
Right. And I see
he paid $900,000 for him last year.
Right. So dude won 2 games for us too, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Goody, again, he wasn't leading in the poll, but that was all Goody making that move, right? So got to give credit where credit's due. All right, running back. Next year, again, focusing on the 2026 column here, guys. Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen White, and Amar Johnson. Now, keep in mind, Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks are both restricted free agents next year. If you want them back, you'll have them back. To me, it looks like the running back room is going to stay intact next year. They might let Chris Brooks walk, but I think they're definitely going to keep Emmanuel Wilson next year. So it's going to be Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, probably Chris Brooks. Now, you can see you've got these guys, Jalen White and Amar Johnson, on 3-year deals, because you signed them, it's kind of that whole futures outlook, that futures approach. So the running back room, to me, guys, looks like it's going to stay pat, unless, of course, a stud falls to them in the draft and they can't pass up on it, So anything you guys want to add to the running back room, anything I'm missing there, other than the fact that if you can we give a shout out to Emmanuel Wilson? Yeah. Only $1 million against the cap last year, just balled out.
For sure. And Josh Jacobs too, man. I mean, what can you say about that guy? I'll tell you what, I'd be looking maybe 26 or 27, maybe end of next year. I could totally see Josh Jacobs taking a restructure just to help the team and stay a Packer. He's been, outspoken about wanting to finish his career here. So I think you're right, Clay. I think, we kind of know what the running back room is going to be, pending, like you said, a home run in the draft or something.
All right. Emilio, anything?
No, I think that pretty much covered it. I like Josh. I'm ready to see what Lloyd brings, and Emmanuel's the dog. I just kind of want to see who's going to fill that Chris Brooks role if we do move on from him. Who's going to play that H-back and willing to throw a shoulder, throw a block.
Marshawn Lloyd 100% healthy for the first time in the last couple of years, also going into this upcoming camp. So something to look forward to.
But he's not going to be our Chris. Is he going to be our Chris Brooks though? Like, I don't think so, right? He's not going to be the one leading the block. I feel like that. I feel like that part of the offense might even come out. Like, if it's not going to be Chris Brooks, I think Tucker's going to be maybe in the backfield where like he's going to get the fake first block or fake, first handoff and then read trap and lead the counter kind of play.
And you got to ask yourself, why did Chris Brooks step into that role? The previous 2 years, Matt wanted to implement the pony package with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. You spill the whole off season. You spend the whole training camp installing that, and A.J. Dillon comes out and falls flat on his face, and then he gets hurt, and you get Chris Brooks to plug into that, so you don't have to change your whole game plan up. You could still run that 21 pony, right?
Yep.
That's what I think happened there.
He's getting away from the pony then this year?
It's not necessarily he's getting away from the pony. He's getting away from two running backs in the pony.
Sidecar ponies. Yeah,
Jaden Reed now, right? He's back there. And what did you just add? Savion Williams.
Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of how.
Do you think it also could be because we maybe have a tight end he could trust? If Musgrave comes out and does a little bit better, you have another tight end you can trust instead of you could put Musgrave on the line or flex him out and then bring Tuck in the backfield. You maybe didn't feel comfortable bringing Tuck in the backfield off the line all the time.
Bring Big Ben Sims in the backfield too. Give him a crack at it.
The problem I have with that, Emilio, is that's going to show a 12 personnel, right? Yeah. Most likely. And I don't think, I go back to last year when we broke down Chalk Talks. We didn't have not one single Chalk Talk that wasn't 11 personnel with our most explosive player.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you want to press into 11. And how do you implement pony while pressing into 11? Jaden Reed or Savion in the backfield.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of feels like the writing's on the wall for Chris. However, I want to keep him if we can.
Mm-hmm.
Stash him on the practice squad, whatever you got to do. Right.
Yep.
All right. Wide receiver room. Again, guys, keying on the 2026 column. Unrestricted free agent will be Romeo Doubs. Unrestricted free agent Christian Watson. Unrestricted free agent Mecole Hardman. All right. So let's say those three are gone. And you're walking it back with the receiver room that's under contract for 2026. Here's what you got. Matthew Golden at 3.9, Jaden Reed at 2.2, Savion Williams 1.4, Dontavion Wicks 1.2, Malik Heath will be a restricted free agent, so you can get him back. Julian Fleming, then you got Cornelius Johnson and Julian Hicks, both exclusive rights free agent, and now the newly acquired Sam Brown is going to be under contract for a couple of years. At least you got rights to him for a couple of years. So with that being said, if we didn't bring any of those three players back, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath will be your top five. You've got room for one more. My guy will be Christian Watson.
Yeah.
Try to work out some kind of deal to bring him back. Your receiver room is back completely intact, right? That is if he comes back and he looks healthy. There's two problems here. Well, the main problem is Christian Watson will probably want to hit the open market, right? He'll want to kind of bet on himself there, and it'll probably be one of those deals. Most likely what's going to happen is the Packers will let him test the market, bring back your best offer. Now they got to do that cost analysis, right? Like, okay, is this the cost-benefit analysis of bringing him back? Does this make sense? Now, there's a chance that they approach it the same way they did with Rashawn Gary and go to Christian Watson and go, hey, listen, man, we know your market's going to be uncertain. And they give him a little bit of an inflated number, but not necessarily a number if he hadn't hurt his knee that he would get on the open market. Does that make sense? So my approach would be, let's try to get Christian Watson back. Let Romeo Doubs walk. Let Mecole Hardman walk. And who knows, Mecole may not play as much of a role as we might anticipate. And then when you get back next season or whatever, when you go into the offseason, he'll have the same market he had before. That could be the case as well. If he doesn't go out and ball out this year, the same market's going to be there for him that was this year. And what was it? $1.4 million is what he got, the venture minimum, essentially. So what do y'all think? Would y'all look at it any different? Or?
I agree with it's either Scoot or Rome. You're going to try and retain one of those two guys. And I could totally see your scenario playing out, Clay, where they let Scoot test the market and then the Packers come with a their offer. Like you said, we don't usually make multiple swings. Usually get one offer. Here it is. But that's a good way to kind of gauge your offer too, right? If he's unrestricted, you can kind of see what the market's looking like out there for him, and then go ahead and get your ducks in a row. And, maybe a guy like Watson would, have some deference for the Packers and want to stay here and just sign that deal. But I do think it's highly unlikely we're going to keep both Rome and Christian Watson.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. My only kind of other thought was like, all right, Rome is Jordan's go-to target, like all the time. I mean, in off-season, preseason, post. I mean, Jordan Love wants to look for him on third down, this, and that. If maybe Jordan Love has a say in it or anything. And right now, not that it's nothing against Christian. He went out there because of Rome, but right now Rome is playing and Christian's not that you're holding it against him, but what happens as the year goes on if Rome makes a name for himself or whatever, or he just becomes that much of a glue, how is it going to be bringing Christian Watson in later and seeing, where the team is at that point? That would kind of be my only pushback, but I would love to have him back. Seriously. I just think Jordan relies on Rome a lot and something obviously something needs to be done, but to what extent?
Let's take that 51 million. And again, if anybody else has a different number, let me know. That's what I'm calculating as the early projection for the salary cap space next year, now that we chose to absorb that 17 million from Jair. Same exact question that we asked on Malik Willis. What would be the number you put on Christian Watson? What's your top end number? Let's assume he's healthy. Let's assume he goes out in November and it's, hey, man, this dude ain't going to miss a beat. He's the old Christian Watson, right? What would be the number? Because you still got to calculate in the fact that he has been hurt a lot, right? Like we can't deny that Watson has had a problem with injuries. It sucks. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. At some point, you can't sit here and kid yourself. But what would be the top number that y'all would be willing to pay him average annual value based off the structure of the wide receiver room here? Because you got to think, and this is what we're talking about, modeling the roster out in advance. If you re-sign Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, whichever one it is, Jaden Reed's coming up for a contract the following year, right? When was the last time the Packers paid two receivers top money?
Who are we? The Bengals?
Right.
Come on now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would the number be, boys? What do you think?
I'm uncomfortable answering this question. I want to see 8 to 10 games plus out of Scoot this year, hopefully, Lord willing. And then maybe I can answer that question. I don't know.
I think Aiden figured you out, Tim. He said Tim's licking his lips waiting for Jaden Higgins to hit free agency after his rookie deal. Tim said, I'll wait on you, Jaden.
Yeah, that's tough.
What did you come up with the number, Tim? Did you
no,
say
I got
I
nothing.
refuse to do it.
Tim says I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm gonna break out the back scratcher since Tim's being unprofessional and not answering the question. I'm gonna use the back scratcher on it.
I'm gonna say 15, maybe
15,
12 to 15.
All right, then I'll go 13. So I'm there.
Nice.
There, I gave you a number.
The perfect scenario for me would be they would agree to a 1-year patched up deal. Like, hey, let's give him, like, what did Christian Watson make this year? 2.9 million he's on the books for this year. So if you went to him and said, hey, we'll give you 1 year, 5 million if you're available all year, you know what I mean? That type of thing. You can kind of prove to the league you're healthy. We'll renegotiate at the end of the year. That would be the best case scenario. But I'm with you, Emilio. I think he would be stupid to do that. If he finishes the year healthy and proves he comes back from that ACL, you got to go get your money, man.
Yeah, you got one shot at it, right? You're coming off the rookie deal. I think he'd probably be adverse to signing anything 1 year. Prove it. But again, we don't, like you said, we don't know. What if it's another season like we've had in the past from him, and it's a lot of up and down and injuries again? We don't know. Hopefully not. That's why I'm more comfortable answering this question after seeing him play some ball in 2025, hopefully. Yeah.
Ed Madden says 10 to 12 million. If he's healthy, and again, that's how I asked the question, right? You proved he was healthy. Sign me up. I would give him that. I would be willing to give both him and Romeo Doubs 10 million per if Rome didn't run into the concussion issues and obviously the suspension last year. I said that early last year. Like, man, if you can get both of them for 10 million each, guys, that's less per year than people like T. Higgins and these guys are making. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think 15 is where I would cap it if Christian proves he's healthy.
Soder in here dropping names again, making us angry. Darnell Mooney making $13 million per year.
That is larceny.
Okay. In regards to the injuries, are you taking, if you had to pick one, you had both in your hands, is it Rome's injuries or Christian's injuries that you would rather take and have to deal with?
Man, my brain hurts just trying to think.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You take, all right, do I want concussions and like one off the field issue that we think is squared away, or do I want the, two, three injuries that, not that it's Christian's fault, I'm not saying that, but like it just happened, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, Christian's injuries, in my opinion, are more concerning because Rome's concussion thing just kind of popped up last year.
Right.
Now, granted, there's no more serious injury in the NFL right now in terms of career threatening than concussions. That's for sure. Yeah. But I feel like I would feel better if you said the value is the same on both those players.
Right. Value is the same. Which injuries are you taking home?
I'm taking Christian Watson. I would bring him back over Romeo Dobbs. It's not even close for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think there's sorry, Ro, I think there's higher upside with Christian. I think there's better leadership with Christian. I think he is the leader of that wide receiver room. I think he's everything you want in a player if he didn't have the injuries, So
his receiving is tough.
When you say $20 million per two, we're not acting like, hey, that's fully guaranteed. There could be incentives in there too, going, hey man, you can make upwards of $25 million if you stay healthy, and you hit, certain statistic levels, but also if you miss time, you might make $8 million, that type of thing. You can structure it in that way. I'm thinking of a contract more along the lines of that, because I don't think there's any team in the league that would guarantee the majority of that money for Christian based off the same information.
No, that's fair. If you removed absolutely everything and you just had concussions or two like lower body injuries?
If you remove the two players, you just said either concussions or Greg Ross makes a great point. There's no fix for concussions.
That's
right.
Fair.
However, the fix is you don't take those hits, right? If someone has had soft tissue injuries consistently and they tear an ACL and this and that, to me that seems like more of a ongoing problem than a concussion problem. But when I hear people talk about the concussions, I think I'm wrong with that viewpoint. Like, most people talk as if, oh man, like Tua, remember with Tua?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to have to retire. Well, surprise, he didn't have to retire. That's why I kind of lean towards, I don't think it's as much of a career-ending thing as it is just kind of bad luck. I mean, you've seen Rome try to catch that ball in his head, smack the turf.
I was just going to say, one of his concussions was non-contact. He didn't even take a shot. He just fell and smacked the back of his head,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like he puts himself in harm's way too much.
I don't think so either. I think he's really good at protecting himself in space most of the time, but it's the NFL, man. It's going to happen.
But I want to be clear though. Like I am separating the two, Emilio. Like I
get that. No, that's all I was kind of. No, because I feel the same way. The way Christian leads, the way he talks, all the the way he's carrying himself in the locker. Definitely, I agree on all that. I was just wondering what you would take if you had both in your hands. Which one would really be your option? And then that's just a part of, okay, what are we going to do in 2026? You know what I mean? That's just a little snippet. We'll put that over in the corner in the red box for injuries. Which one would I take out of the two? All right, perfect. Now let's go over, his stats. Let's go over the kind of player he is, the kind of, the man he is, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
I'm just earmarking a comment in here so I can ask you guys about it at the end here. Nobody's in trouble. All right. Moving along. Tight end. All right. Tight end. Next year, and again, we didn't get to an answer. There's one more thing here. Somebody mentioned it. Where's it at? 20 million. Somebody mentioned 20 million. They're both going to garner $20 million. I want to give credit to who said it, because I don't think that's an inaccurate statement. Here we go. H.E. Soder. Both are going to command around 20 million if they play well. 100% true. If Christian Watson goes out and he's putting up over 100 yards a game and he's averaging over 20 yards a catch like he did last year, I'm okay with paying him $20 million if he proves he's healthy, because There's your number one receiver. There's your field stretcher. And now you got Matthew Golden in the mix and a rookie contract and this and that. The problem's going to come with Jaden Reed because Jaden Reed has been your leading receiver. So just something that you're going to have to approach later on. All right, moving on to tight end. Under contract next year, Luke Musgrave at 2.6, Tucker Kraft 1.7. John Fitzpatrick will be an unrestricted free agent. Ben Sims will be a restricted free agent, so he will be back. Two guys that's been in the system for, I think, last year, if I remember correctly, on and off, Messiah Swinson and Johnny Lumpkin are both exclusive rights free agents. So I think that you probably going to want to replace John Fitzpatrick with maybe a draft pick or a nice free agent signing, somebody that's cheap that you feel a little bit better about. Maybe someone you had a decent draft grade on 4 or 5 years ago type guy. Sure. But next year, you're looking at Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft coming back for pennies on the dollar, especially Tucker Kraft. $1.7 million next year. My God, he's making $1.5 million this year, and he had arguably the best tight end year in Packers history last year when we really broke down the average numbers in terms of EPA when targeted and all those things. So, what do you guys? Anything you want to add to the tight end? Because I feel like that's pretty cut and dry there. Ben Sims will be back. You'll give Messiah Swinson and Johnny Lumpkin a chance to make the roster, and you'll probably add another camp body or two to see if you can find another Ben Sims type guy.
And I still think there's a chance you can keep Ben Sims. I mean, he's restricted free agent, right? So that just means he's going to test the market, right? And you get a chance to meet or beat an offer, right? And then maybe a good scenario would be a guy like Messiah Swinson stepping up this year. And all of a sudden making some noise in that tight end room might make this decision a little bit easier down the road. But I think I'm with you, Clay. It might be time for a mock draft. Start looking at tight ends. Because I think you're right. I love John Fitzpatrick, but beyond 26, after this year, it's probably a wrap for him.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do think that obviously we're set with Luke and Tucker. And Ben Messiah and all them are going to get a chance to come back. I think you're right. We'll probably just go ahead and pull the trigger on one. The only other time is if one of them gets cut that maybe we liked in this year's draft. If they got signed as a free agent or whatever, and they don't make that 53. Maybe we pick them up and throw them on the practice squad this year, work them through, see if we don't like something else there, and then keep going.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last topic of the night here, still under the same umbrella topic, but this is going to be the fun one here. Offensive line.
Look at this mess.
Yeah, look at this mess, Tim said. All right. So in 2026, returning under contract as it sits right now, Elton Jenkins, 24.8. Aaron Banks, 24.8. Zach Tom is set to be an unrestricted free agent. Rasheed Walker is set to be an unrestricted free agent. You got Jordan Morgan returning at $3.8 million. That's why you want him at left tackle, so you don't have to pay Sheed, right?
Right.
Sean Ryan, unrestricted free agent. Trey Hill, unrestricted free agent. Jacob Monk will be returning. Travis Glover will be returning.
The guy.
Tim, that was not you, was it?
You know it wasn't me, man. You know it wasn't me.
Kadeem Telford will be an exclusive rights free agent, so you can get him back if you want him. There's John Williams, Tyler Cooper, J.J. Lip, however you say his name, Brant Banks, and then Donovan Jennings, exclusive rights free agent. So, again, returning next year under contract as it sits right now, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Banks, Jordan Morgan, Jacob Monk, Travis Glover, John Williams, Tyler Cooper, J.J. Lip, Brant Banks, and then Donovan Jennings. You got 10 under contract for next year.
So we ignore the numbers on Elton, right? Because he's obviously he's looking to rework a deal right now. So these are going to change.
I wouldn't say we would ignore it, Tim, but if he's going to be on the roster, they're going to have to adjust that, right? That's what you're saying. They're going to have to.
I would think so, right? And then it would probably keep him here at least till 2028, maybe something like that, or beyond slightly.
Or, and I hate to say this, if he's not willing to adjust or they're not willing to adjust the terms he wants, and they move forward with their original plan, they may be looking to cut bait in 2026. And just so you guys know, that $24.8 million cap hit right here, the dead cap attached is only 4.8. Boys and girls, that means if you cut Elton next year,
saving 20
free
million.
up. $20 million in cap space. Right?
$20 million.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. We all agree Zach Tom is going to get paid. He's going to get a big contract, right? So if we include him on this roster, and we've kind of modeled this out a little bit already, I'm including Zach Tom on my roster. We're paying him. He's coming back. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. The big question becomes, like Tim pointed out, Elton Jenkins, right?
Mhm.
That's the big one. Other than that, everything else is in place already, right? So if you model it out in the future here, let's say even at Elton at that 24.8, remember what we just talked about. You've got, we're showing 51 million in cap space. Let's say it's closer to 40. Let's play it safe here, okay? 40 million in cap space. If you bring Christian Watson back at $20 million per, right? So now you're down to 20 million. Boys, now again, that's not going to fall evenly distributed. So that cap number the first year will be lighter. Typically that's how Goody does it. He'll pay more cash up front, free up cap space in the first year or two of the deal, and then you kind of get the inflated cap hit numbers on the backside, but the guaranteed money's gone, where you can get out of it. Like we always say, a 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal. A 3-year deal is really a 2-year deal. But the point is, you're already seeing a scenario where you might have to choose between Zach Tom and Christian Watson. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So if you can shave off $8 to $10 million off the Elton Jenkins contract with a restructure, then that looks a little more palatable. But if you see what I'm talking about? Like if they don't do anything with Elton, you can cut bait with Elton, and now your 40 million with 10 million cushion goes to 60 million next year, and now you have no problem signing Christian Watson and Zach Tom. And I know there's people going, "Whoa, I would rather have Elton Jenkins back than Christian Watson." I understand that, but when was the last time Goody re-signed a 31-year-old offensive lineman?
Right.
Precedent, right? So,
yeah. And
you
now,
guys have the floor.
Was Scoot and Zach Tom, they were the same draft class, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Yes.
So Rome, Scoot, and Zach Tom all coming off rookie deals here. Yeah, Zach Tom's got to get paid, man. That's my guy. I mean, if you're talking about, he's the best offensive lineman on our team, right? I don't think that's even really up for debate at this point. So, I love Scoot, but my vote would be get Zach Tom in the fold for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Soda says, I don't know if he's pulling actual numbers or just guessing. He may be looking at the market value for these players. He said Tom is around 20 to 25 million. Run the check down there. Rasheed Walker around 20. I'm plugging Jordan Morgan in at left tackle and moving on from Rasheed. That's me personally. And then you pick up a comp pick there. Sean Ryan is at least 10 million. His pass blocking last year, I think they said he graded out the 32nd best. It was in the 30s. Best pass blocking grade amongst guards, which is surprising because that's top 64, Emilio. That's starting caliber. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. He said it about Tom. Go ahead, Emilio.
No, that's tough. I think, because you already signed Aaron Banks, right? So it's like you kind of committed to him over Elton by giving him that longer deal. We can't get out of Aaron's next year, right? So,
right.
It's you kind of made that decision. You have to pay Tom. Maybe you can get away with paying 3, but like Tim was saying, we have the wide receiver core coming up too. Then right after that, you got Jaden Reed, and then right after that, you're gonna have to pay somebody else. You're gonna have to pay your D line. You're gonna have to pay the secondary. So it's
Edrin Cooper is gonna need a real big contract before you know it, right?
Dude, that's the problem. How old was? Do you remember how old Bach was when he got his last contract? Was he 29?
It's so it was probably 28 or 29. It's so rare that they get the third contract like that. And again, you say you use that as precedent, right? Because I've kind of leaned in that direction too. But do you think Goody doesn't have a sour taste in his mouth from how
exactly.
So that's something to take into consideration too. You mentioned about Aaron Banks. So in 2026, his cap hit is 24.8 million. The dead cap attached is 20.2. So you could cut bait in 2026, but you're only going to free up less than $4 million. That's just silly. Or right at $4 million. That's silly. 2027, like you were saying, he turns 30. Cap hits 22.2. Dead cap is 13.5, so you could free up $9 million if you cut bait in 2027. But 2028 to me, Emilio, seems like the year that they're going to move on. His cap hit jumps or falls back down to 20.7, but the dead cap is only 6.7.
Right.
So you can free up $14 million in 2028. So yeah, I think he's here definitely through 2026, most likely through 2027, but you're probably not going to bring him back for 28.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So again, the whole purpose here was to just take a look at the salary cap projection for 2026 and kind of come up with a rough number. I feel comfortable saying between 35 and 45 million in cap space as it sits right now. If you guys see or hear anything else, let me know. I seen a couple tweets go out the other day that made it sound like we're actually over the cap in 2026. I don't know how they're coming up with that. I have no clue what they're talking about there. But then again, that was definitely before the Jair news as well. So not that extra 10 million, if they had split it up, you could have went 10 million for 2026. That still wouldn't even put you over the cap next year. So you guys, if you hear something else, let me know for sure. So that's what we're looking at, man. The big question marks, and this is just offense. We'll do defense tomorrow if we do a show. The big question marks on offense on who you're going to sign. Like, what are the big decisions you got to make? Malik Willis, what's your top number to bring back a very good backup quarterback? You're set at running back. What do you want to pay Christian Watson if he proves he's healthy, right? You're going to re-sign Zach Tom. Do you try to keep Elton Jenkins? These are the things that Goody's thinking about as he gets ready to send his scouts out to do the business this year, right?
Yep.
So he's probably looking at, like they always are, look, guys, we're probably going to end up drafting 2 or 3 offensive linemen. That's what we're going to end up doing there. Wide receiver-wise, probably won't spend a whole lot of time scouting wide receiver. Now, you're going to be prepared, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be like this year. Why did they invest in 2 draft picks at wide receiver this year? Because Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are coming up for contract, and you don't know if they're even going to prove that they're worth the deal, right? Watson may not be healthy. Romeo Doubs may take a step back, so you kind of covered your bases there. Going to be a lot of fun to see how it all unfolds. Mark O'Day says, will the cap go up next year? It will. It goes up every year. Now, I had the projected cap space here, and again, this is just a projected number, but if I go to 2026, the projected number according to Spot Track right now, to answer your question, is $307.1 million. Now, to put that in
Goody Cook.
So remember that number for me, 307, okay? To put that into perspective, this year the cap was $279.2 million. So they're expecting it to jump that much. So
that's another player. I mean,
it is. Now, again, the number that those folks came up with saying that we're already over on the cap, they may have been looking at the 2025 salary cap number, not taking into consideration that it was going to raise again, right? So just keep that in mind. And again, that's also taking into consideration the $35 million in rollover cap that we got. I'm still amazed at how many people don't understand that we roll that money over. It's like there's folks that are going, why ain't we spending that money? Go spend that money. No, you get to keep that next year. Like, you get to use that next year too. Like, your roster's built. Who are you going to go spend $30 million on right now? Trey Hendrickson. Okay, I got you.
We're not going to pay Ellen, who's 30 and been with the team for the entire year or for his entire career, but we'll go ahead and pay Trey.
And I want to be clear. If it got announced tomorrow that we traded a second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, I wouldn't be going, this is stupid. I'd be going, boy, they pushed their chips in the middle of the table, right? Because you're going to have to extend Trey Hendrickson and you're mortgaging the future on a guy who's already 30 years old. But you're saying, let's really try to push this thing across the finish line. And
taking snaps from LVN.
Right.
And Mike and West said that Barron Sorrell was playing edge across from Rashawn Gary on a couple reps.
Mm-hmm. I think Barron Sorrell is going to surprise us, man.
So,
I really do. I think it's Barron Sorrell at edge. I think they'll try to settle Colin Oliver in at stack backer. And that extra added value of being able to play multiple positions like we talked about. I also think that you're going to see Colin Oliver hop on special teams and probably be a bit of a dog there too. So one thing I do feel comfortable is kick coverage. I feel like we got a lot better this offseason. I mean, you added multiple guys guy. You bring back Zane Anderson. You've got Isaiah McDuffie, who was kind of our special teams ace for a long time before he started playing a little more stackbacker. You brought in Isaiah Simmons. That he graded out in the 80s or the 90s, according to PFF special teams grade last year. You went and got Colin Oliver, who I think is just, with that RAS, his athletic ability, he just feels like a dude that's going to go screaming down the field on kickoffs.
Right.
So I think you did improve in that aspect. Oh, by the way, Brandon McManus is just hitting clutch kicks in camp from 50
Yeah, like 58 yarders, like no problem. Probably into the wind too. No big deal.
All right. Tomorrow, guys, we will look at the defensive side of the ball in terms of salary cap, for 2026 and kind of get a little bit better idea of that. And then once we move on from that topic, we're going to start jumping into some of our off-season stuff. What we'll probably do is some chalk talks. Emilio, you want to do a third down chalk talk? I think that's a great idea. We got a Josh Jacobs chalk talk queued up. Also want to do like top plays, like Jaden Reed's top plays, do a chalk talk episode on that. Tucker Kraft's top plays, chalk talk on that. Rashawn Gary chalk talk on, so on and so forth. Carrington Valentine, all those dudes. So we'll kind of end when we get through all the chalk talks. Then what we'll probably do is go into a quick recap from last year and just kind of, okay, here's how the season went. Let's look at the box scores. Let's look at, kind of what we did the other day with just the NFC North matchups. And then we'll get into our series of camp battles and get you guys kind of a preview on the training camp. So it'll be a lot of fun. But
Love it.
anything else, boys? Anything at all?
Happy birthday to my mom. I'm not sure if she's listening tonight.
Mama.
It's mom's birthday, so happy birthday to mom.
Let's go.
Best wishes. See you soon, and all that good stuff.
Good stuff. Happy birthday, Mama.
Happy birthday.
Sure glad you put up with this knucklehead for 18 years so we can have him on the show. It's working. Nah. All right. It's hilarious. You're wishing your mama a happy birthday. I got a call from Dad at 2 a.m. last night wondering, do I need to drive to Kentucky and post bail? You know what I mean? He just hanging out, you know what I mean? Just wanting to talk to his boy. And I'm like, Dad, I got to get up at 6, bro. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So anyway, yeah, gave him that. Scolding my dad for staying up too late. So anyway,
Clayton woke up looking like, what the hell?
Yeah. I was worried because he called me during the show. And as soon as the show was over, I called him back. He didn't answer. 30 minutes later, called him back, didn't answer. Called him back, didn't answer. I'm like, I text my sister, like, hey, everything good? Like, hadn't heard from Dad, but he called. And then, lo and behold, I get a call at like 1:32 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. He's good. He's just out there, LIVIN. So that's it. You got it, Mark. You are Irish. Yes, sir. That is correct. That is correct. Nothing like a redneck Bacher family with Irish roots from Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the Bailey house. So anyway, everybody have a wonderful evening. We appreciate y'all. And we will see you tomorrow. Most likely, we might take a night off. I'm going to be down your way tomorrow, Emilio. So I'm going to go spend the day in K-Town and might be off tomorrow, but we'll let y'all know if we do decide.